Are you looking to plan a cruise but are feeling maybe just a bit overwhelmed by all the different options you have out there? Maybe you just want some clear, concise information to help you decide which cruise line is best for you. Well, I've sailed on 5 different cruise lines over the past 2 years or so on several different ships. I've gone either by myself, I've gone with big groups of family, I've gone with just my 2 kids. So I feel like I have some pretty good perspective on what the different cruise lines have to offer and which ones might be the best for different types of people. So if you're ready for a little bit of a cruise line battle royale, well, stay tuned. Hi everyone, my name is Tim and my channel is called Tim at Sea. I'm a big fan of cruising. Sometimes I go solo, sometimes I go with family. And this channel is just designed to bring you some perspective, some tips, some tricks, some other information to help you make the most of your cruise vacations. First of all, I know it's been a little while since I posted a video and I do apologize for that. For those of you that are subscribed and stayed subscribed, I do appreciate that. For those of you who are not subscribed, I invite you to do so as it really helps out the channel. So thank you very much for that. So what are we going to talk about in this video? Well, I thought it might just be helpful to give you some pros and cons of the different cruise lines I've been on. We're going to talk about everything from the ships themselves, value, dining options, activities, entertainment, you name it. And at the end, I'm going to give you my picks on which ones I think are the best for different types of people. I'm going to try to keep it pretty short because I can't stand those 45-minute long videos. I'm going to try to keep it to 15-20 minutes. We'll see what happens in the end. But I know you want to get the information quickly and you don't want to be overwhelmed, so that's what I'm hoping to do in this video. So I think we'll start by just doing an overview of which cruise lines I've been on and which ships. So first of all, Norwegian is the one I've been on the most. I've been on the Bliss, the Encore, the Escape, the Prima, and the Joy. And on Princess, I have been on the Grand Princess and the Royal Princess. On Royal Caribbean, I've been on the Oasis of the Seas. On Celebrity, I've been on the Edge. And on Disney, I've been on the Fantasy. So obviously I've got a few more cruises with Norwegian under my belt, a couple with Princess and only one on the others. So just keep that in mind. I have limited perspective. I know different ships are going to bring different experiences. So these are just my opinions. I hope I don't offend anybody. But there we go. So how do I cruise? Well, sometimes I cruise solo, sometimes I go with my extended family, sometimes I just take my 2 kids, ages 13 and 11. I enjoy more relaxation, enjoying the food, enjoying the scenery, taking in some shows, a little bit at the casino, that sort of thing. I'm not a big partier, I don't drink, so if you're looking for information about bars or, parties and that sort of thing, I'm not going to be the best choice. I'm a pretty simple guy when it comes to food. I'm a meat and potatoes type of person. I like simple things. I do enjoy a good steak, but otherwise I'm not really into fancy dining or anything like that. So hopefully that gives you just a little bit of a rundown of what you can expect from me. Please understand again that this is subjective. These are just my opinions, and I'm going to just do the best I can. Okay, so now that that housekeeping information is out of the way, I think we can start jumping in and talking about the different cruise lines. So in no particular order, I guess we will start with Royal Caribbean. So with Royal, I was on the Oasis of the Seas, and this was back in spring break of 2022. I took my 2 kids to this cruise. So obviously, spring break cruises are always going to be a bit of an adventure if you're looking for quiet. Obviously, you're not going to get it on this ship. There was a lot of kids, a lot of people. It was fully booked. I believe it held over 6,000 passengers, so it was definitely crowded. So in terms of pros on this ship, I think the main one is just the sheer amount of activities and things to do on board. For the kids and kids at heart, you've got ice skating, you've got water slides, you've got multiple pools, you've got escape rooms, you got mini golf, you got laser tag, you got rock climbing, you got zip lines, you got a flow rider, surfing simulator. It just goes on and on. There's something to do for everyone on this ship, and you will definitely not be bored. There's a great selection of restaurants. I believe there's over 11 restaurants that are complimentary as part of the cruise fare, and then there's 9 others that are considered specialty that you can pay extra for. So there's all kinds of variety in terms of food. It's also got this really unique neighborhood type layout where they have these different sections of the ship that are decorated and designed in different ways. So you have Central Park, which is designed to look like the famous park in New York, of course, where they have all this greenery and relaxation, lots of places to sit, and it's just a beautiful place. And then you've got the boardwalk, which is like, you know, an amusement park entrance almost, with a carousel and a bunch of restaurants like Johnny Rockets and bars and that sort of thing. And then you have the promenade, which is like the Mall of America, built right into the middle of the ship with a lot of different shopping. There's a bar that actually moves up and down multiple levels, so that's really cool. There's just something for everyone. So aside from just the normal stuff that you find on all cruise lines, like game shows and seminars and talks and shows and comedians and live music, which of course Royal has those in spades, but they also have some really unique entertainment options on board. The Aqua Theater is one of my favorites. It's this big sort of outdoor amphitheater towards the front of the ship, and they do all sorts of high dive routines and musical shows. And this was just really amazing. They were high diving off really high heights on the ship while we were sailing along and dancing, and the stage moved up and down with the water, and it was just a really fun experience. They also have Broadway quality shows on the ship. On this particular ship, they had Cats, which isn't one of my favorites, but it was really well done. The acting was good, the costumes, the music, everything was really nice. And the final thing you have to talk about if you're going on Royal and doing one of these sort of itineraries to the Caribbean or Bahamas is Coco Cay. This is their own private island, and a lot of the different cruise lines have their own private island, but I think Coco Cay is the best one, personally. Mainly because they have this enormous water park. It's got the tallest water slide in North America. My kids absolutely loved it. Of course, they've also got a lot of bars and venues and different activities, snorkeling, and lots of things to do on the island, but I'd say the water park is probably the star of the show, especially if you have kids. Now we'll talk about a few of the things that I would say are cons on this ship. I mean, again, there wasn't a lot. In terms of food, I didn't really feel like the food was amazing in the main dining room or the buffet. Nothing bad, of course, but it just wasn't blowing me away, I guess. It was kind of nice that they sat us with a family that had a daughter who was about my own daughter's age. So they became friends and they hung out a little bit on the ship, so that was kind of cool. We also did eat at the specialty restaurant, the steakhouse, I believe it's called Chops Grill, and that was really good. So I can't, of course, speak for all the restaurants. There's so many restaurants on this ship, and we only did a small portion of them. My kids did love the pizza, but in general, I just wasn't blown away by the food. I think probably the main con for me was just how crowded the ship was. So this ship, again, holds something like 6,000 plus passengers, and it was full. And you could tell, and obviously this is a really big ship, so it's well dispersed, I guess, but there was just a lot of times where I just felt like, wow, this is just super crowded. I mean, the pools were just like packed with kids. I mean, you had like your little 2x2 square foot space where you kind of had to stay. There definitely wasn't any swimming going on. And just some of the venues, the buffet lines were pretty long. It took maybe sometimes 10 minutes to get into the buffet because there was such a long line of people waiting. You know, if you wanted a seat at the Aqua Theater or in the main theater or for the ice skating show, then you had to get there pretty early, or else you were either going to sit way on the corner ends or you just weren't going to sit at all. So it was a little more crowded than I'm used to. And again, it's spring break, I get it. So we'll call that a little bit of a con, but just be prepared that these ships are big and they hold a lot of people, and you're going to be waiting in lines for things. So to sum it up for Royal, I think this cruise line is absolutely great for families. People with kids especially are going to have a great time. There's tons for your kids to do on this ship. And there's some places for adults too. There's a sanctuary location where only adults are allowed if you want to get a little rest and relaxation. Some of the venues on the ship are just really unique. You won't really find them anywhere else. The Aqua Theater especially, the ice skating rinks. I mean, no other ships have these kinds of things. So if you're really looking for an amped ship, as they call it, then Royal's the way to go. The pricing and value of Royal tends to be pretty good. I mean, obviously it depends on the cabin you choose and your sailing, but in terms of pricing compared to the other cruise lines, I'd say they're on the lower end. So you can find some pretty good deals. They've got sales going all the time. A lot of times, you know, they'll have these 30, 40, 50% off the second guest sales going. And I don't really know. I haven't really compared and contrasted the prices as these sales come and go, but I was able to find pretty good pricing on Royal's website, and I think you will too. We had a great time on this cruise. My kids loved Coco Key. They loved the kids club. They made a lot of friends. For me personally, I would say that it just wasn't the type of ship that I'm really looking for. Just a little bit too crowded and noisy for me, and a little bit too many kids, but again, spring break. So take that for what it's worth. So the next cruise line we're going to talk about is Celebrity, and I was on the Edge, which is one of their newest ships. I think it was built in 2018, and this took place in October of 2021. So cruises had just sort of started back up again after the COVID shutdown. There was only about 1,000 people on this ship, even though it holds 3,400. So again, kind of a unique experience, but let's talk about that. So in terms of pros for Celebrity, they're known as a higher end, higher tier cruise line, and the Edge in this case was no exception. This ship was just built back in, I think, 2019, 2018. So it's a really new ship, and it just blew me away with the beauty of it. Everything is upscale. If you compare this with any other cruise line, you'll just be blown away by the ingenuity, the design. There's artwork everywhere. There's beautiful indoor and outdoor spaces. There's this space called Eden where it's just like you're in like the Avatar movie or something. There's gardens and live plants everywhere. There's these really interesting chairs and places to sit down. And they actually serve dinner in there at different times of the day and do live performances while you eat. And then they have live music all throughout the day. And it's just a great place to sit and hang out too. I felt like the food, especially the complimentary options, really stood out for me on Celebrity. The buffet itself was great. It had a lot of custom areas where you could go and have them build you your own entree, either a pasta station or an omelet station for breakfast, or, meat carving, build your own salad. There was just a lot of these different choices, and it was really unique, and it rotated a lot, so you weren't getting the same food all the time. So I just felt like, compared to the other cruise lines, definitely a step up from Celebrity in terms of food. I did do one of the specialty dining restaurants, which was called Le Petit Chef. Sorry, my French isn't very good, but wow, this was just an amazing experience. The table was all white and the plates were placed on the table, and there was a show that took place. So like there was a projector filming down on your table, and like this animated show was showing for every course you got. And they would show this, 3 to 5 minute video on your table and on your plates where these little people are dancing around and talking and creating your food. And then they bring out the food and place it in front of you just as the video ends. It was just quite a unique experience. The food, in my opinion, the food was a little on the fancy, like I didn't even know what half of it was, honestly, and it wasn't really my favorite food, but the experience itself is definitely worth it, especially if you have kids and you want to show them this show. It was really unbelievable, and I've never seen anything else like that. The cabins themselves are beautiful on the ship. I happen to have an infinite veranda, which is a unique take on the standard balcony room. Instead of having a door where you go out onto the balcony, you just have this little open area and you can open the window. So the window comes down in your room like this, and then you have a balcony there and it's all glass. And then of course you can close it off to keep the sun out and everything, but it gives you more space in the room, which is really nice. All of the features in the room were really upscale. Everything was digital. It was really well thought out. They had this desk that pushed under and came out, so it didn't take up a lot of room. And they had this little charging box that sort of blended in perfectly with the furniture, so you could charge all your devices in this little box. That's always a big thing on cruise lines, is they never have enough charging ports for all your stuff, right? But Celebrity gets this right. The thermostat was digital, the lighting was all digital, bathroom was completely amazing, so definitely an upscale experience throughout. So in terms of cons for Celebrity, I would have to say that price is probably the main one for me. I mean, you get these luxury experiences, but they do come at a cost. This room would have cost something like $4,000+ for me to do this 7-day Caribbean sailing, which I think is pretty steep compared to the other cruise lines. You could easily get on a cruise for $1,000 to $2,000 just for yourself after all the fees and everything on some of the other Royal Caribbean or Norwegian or some of the other more discount cruise lines. But you definitely get some upscale experiences. The food is better, the ambiance is better, but it does come at a cost. And since Celebrity does cater to the higher end clientele, I guess the passengers were a little stuffier, I would say. Again, no offense to anybody. I just noticed that a lot more people were complaining on this cruise compared to other cruises I've been on about things like the food or the service. And again, there was only 1,000 people approximately on the ship, and they had just come back after the restart, and there's probably a lot of new crew members and stuff that were just getting up to speed. So it was just a little surprising to me how much people were complaining about kind of nitpicky, dumb things. To me, the service was amazing, and I felt bad for those people, but I guess that's kind of the clientele you get with these people that have a little bit more money. They tend to be a little bit more expectant about what they should get and what they should have on a cruise. So that was just my experience with that. Another con to me was just that there was just a little bit less to do on this ship compared to other ships. Obviously, they have all the enrichment, the relaxation, the shows. They had comedy shows and that sort of thing, lots of live music, but they didn't have any sort of Broadway style shows. The shows were all sort of music based. Maybe it was just because they were just coming back from the COVID thing, but there weren't any like Broadway productions on this ship, and I don't think they have them on their other ships either. It's just not something they do. Also, I mean, if you've got kids, there's not going to be a lot for them to do on this ship other than go to the pool, I guess. They do have a kids club, of course, and I don't really have a lot of experience with that because I did do that trip solo. But there's no water slides, there's no climbing walls, there's none of that stuff, no sports courts. It's really an adult-oriented cruise, so if you've got kids, this probably isn't the best choice for you. So to sum things up for Celebrity, I would say that it's definitely geared to a more adult clientele, a more upscale clientele. So if you enjoy luxurious experiences, beautiful outdoor and indoor spaces, relaxation, solitude, enrichment, then I think Celebrity is a great choice for you. If you do have kids or you're looking for a little bit more adventure, I guess, on the cruise ship, then Celebrity is probably not the best choice. So now we're going to jump into Norwegian, which is the cruise line that I've spent the most time on personally over the last few years. I've been on the larger ships, the Encore, the Bliss, and the Joy, which are all sister ships with similar layouts and designs and features. I've also been on the Prima, which is actually their newest ship sailing. They're about to release the Viva here shortly, which is the same ship design as the Prima. It's a smaller ship with a lot more room in the outdoor spaces. A little more cramped on the inside, but really beautiful, more upscale ship. And then I've also been on the Escape, which is a little bit older, but also one of the larger ships. So I've got kind of a lot of experience with Norwegian. So let's talk about their pros. And the pros on Norwegian are the sheer amount of activities. Again, it's not quite up there with Royal Caribbean in terms of stuff for kids to do. But I find it to be a really good mix of activities that kids would enjoy and also adults would enjoy. There's plenty of spaces on the ship for just adults to have fun and kind of keep those kids away. And then there's plenty of places where the kid in you, so to speak, can go and have a good time. They've got go-kart tracks, they've got climbing walls, they've got laser tag. They've got some really unique, fun activities, virtual reality, all kinds of things that kids and adults would like. I kind of fall into this category where, I like the relaxation and quiet, but I also like some of those things that maybe some kids would like. So Norwegian is a good fit for me in terms of that. Their shows on Norwegian are top-notch. They have Broadway quality shows. I saw Jersey Boys, I've seen Footloose, I saw Choir of Man, and just amazing shows. Like the production value is through the roof, really Broadway quality, and can't complain there. They've also got tons of game shows and the usual trivia and all that stuff. So there's something to do for everyone. They've got comedians and live music everywhere. So like most of the cruise lines do this pretty well, but Norwegian is right up there. I really enjoy all the specialty restaurants on Norwegian. They have a huge selection of different types of cuisine on their specialty restaurants, and I really find them all to be really good. I've been to pretty much all of them. One of the things that Norwegian does is they have this free at sea program when you book a cruise, where they give you a couple of specialty dining packages with your cruise fare. You do have to pay gratuities on them, but it's fairly negligible. But it gives you an opportunity to try these. They have everything from barbecue to Asian to steakhouses to a French restaurant and everything in between. So there's a lot of different choices, Italian. And I've just found that all of them have been really good and worth it to me in terms of the extra money you have to pay. So Norwegian definitely wins in terms of specialty restaurants, in my opinion. Norwegian's also pretty good with the solo travelers. So obviously, as someone who travels solo quite a bit, I value the opportunities that Norwegian has to help solo travelers to get a little bit more out of the cruise. They have a studio area that is designed for solo travelers. It's not necessarily always cheaper to do this than getting like an interior room, for example, but the solo cabins are small and designed for single travelers, and they also come with their own lounge called the Studio Lounge, where you can go and hang out and meet other solos. And only the solo people are allowed, only the people in the studios, I should say, are allowed to go in this Studio Lounge. And they've got, the fancy drink machine, and they got snacks there all day and all kinds of things. So it's just kind of a nice little perk for those who travel solo. Also, they kind of go out of their way to have these meet and greet sessions for solo travelers. So you can go and meet other people that are doing the same thing you are. No other cruise lines really put on any kind of thing like this for solo travelers to meet each other. So I thought this was a pretty nice touch. In terms of cabins on Norwegian, I've stayed in the Haven a couple of times. One time I used their Upgrade Advantage program, and the other time I just got a pretty good deal. So normally that's just way too pricey for me, but with the Upgrade Advantage, it was helpful. And I'm actually planning to do a video on that pretty soon. So hopefully you can find a way to maybe get yourself in the Haven if it's just never been in your budget before. But the Haven experience is just something that I would suggest you try at least once. They typically have their own restaurant, they have their own private spaces, and it's a much more luxurious experience compared to staying in a standard room. But I guess that's something for a whole nother video. And I've also stayed in regular rooms, including standard balconies and mini suites a couple of times. I think they call them club balcony suites now. But the rooms themselves are good. They're solid. They're well engineered and laid out, and they've got bathrooms are nice. They have the glass showers instead of the shower curtains, which is a nice touch. And in general, I've been very happy with the rooms I have on Norwegian. In terms of cons of Norwegian, a lot of people will tell you that they sort of nickel and dime you with all the fees and extras they charge. So I mentioned before that they have this free at sea program where they give you things like free internet, free drink package, free specialty dining, and I think $50 per port for a shore excursion credit. But with the drink package itself, that sounds amazing for people that do drink alcohol and can make it worth it, but the gratuities on that are pretty high. So like on a 7-day cruise, the typical gratuities for a drink package might be like $250. So to me, let's see, $250 divided by 7 days is what, something like $35, $40 a day just for gratuities for the free drinks. And I don't know, like I said, I'm not a drinker, so I don't really know. I guess you could pretty easily spend $25, $30, $40 a day on alcoholic beverages if that's your thing. But to me, it's like, wow, the gratuities almost make it. I mean, of course, these people do deserve to be tipped, of course. So I'm not saying anything like that, so please don't take me the wrong way. I'm just saying that the free drink package becomes $250, which is like $35, $40 a day. So tell me, you have to decide if that's worth it for you. The specialty dining, like I mentioned, is really good, but it can be pretty expensive, especially if you want to try a lot of the different restaurants. You're talking $40 to $50 per person, probably, to go to one of these specialty dining restaurants. So it can be pricey. And one of the main things that I think they nickel and dime you for is the internet package. So, wow, I can't believe how much they charge for this. It's something like over $200 for the voyage for a single device. And as you add devices, instead of just like incrementally bringing it up just a little bit, it seems like they bring it up, like they almost double it. So instead, if it's $250 for one device, then it's like $480 or something for two devices. I don't know what the exact numbers are, but I was just, compared to all the other cruise lines I've ever been on, the internet on Norwegian is just way more expensive, and it just doesn't really make sense to me. So I feel like that's just too much to charge for internet. And that kind of is the theme with some of the things that you can get on Norwegian. So the go-kart track they have on some of the ships, as well as the laser tag, none of those are included in your cruise fare. You have to pay extra. It's like something like $15 per person per trip to go on the go-karts, which I think is kind of ridiculous. I mean, I don't see why they can't include that as part of the fare. I mean, most of the activities on other ships, Royal Caribbean, are included. So the fact that they charge extra for these activities can be a little off-putting to some people. So to sum things up for Norwegian, I would say that it's kind of a good mix for pretty much anyone, you know, for solo travelers, for couples, for families, you know, it's got something for everyone, and they do a nice job of separating areas. So if you're looking for more solitude and relaxation and enrichment, then you can get that. And if you're looking for more adventure and some more things for kids to do, then you can get that. So I think it's a really good balance on Norwegian. In terms of value, I think it's pretty good. The fares tend to be pretty low. They do nickel and dime you a little bit, like I said, when it comes to internet and things like that. But you could easily do a Norwegian cruise and just skip all of that if you're just kind of wanting to unplug from the world and still get a really good value. The next cruise line we are going to talk about is Princess. So I've been on 2 Princess cruises in the past couple of years. One of them was a 15-day adventure from Los Angeles to Hawaii. Really amazing time. And then I sailed on the Royal Princess to Alaska just a few months ago. So Princess is known for its kind of more traditional cruise experience. It's got traditional ships where they all kind of have the same general layout. They have this big atrium that is sort of the centerpiece of the cruise experience. And then all of the ships kind of have the same restaurants and activities. So they're different sizes and that sort of thing, but they kind of try to all be similar in terms of the layout and design. So if you've been on one, then you'll feel comfortable on another one. In terms of pros for Princess, they've just rolled out this thing called Medallion Class, where instead of like a key card, you get this little medallion that you hang from your neck or you can wear on your wrist, and it controls everything about your experience. So it allows you to get into your room. It keeps track of where you are on the ship. You can order food or drinks and have it delivered to wherever you are on the ship, and they know where you are based on your medallion. It's also really handy when it comes to being able to find other family members on the ship, especially if you don't have communication devices or internet packages active. You can use the app to figure out where your kids are or where your husband is or your significant other. So the Medallion app is really an amazing feature that I didn't think would really make that big of a difference, but it's really cool. So sometimes, like when we were on the Hawaiian cruise and I had my kids with me, we'd be in the Vista Lounge playing bingo or something, and the kids were like, I'm hungry. So I could order them food from the app right to the Vista Lounge without leaving my seat, and 5 minutes later someone would bring the food over and set it right in front of us, and it was just super convenient. I mean, great for lazy people like me. So the Medallion app really adds a lot to the experience. But on my more recent cruise, the Medallion app didn't work quite as well, maybe because it was a little bit more crowded. I'm not really sure, but there were a couple of times where I ordered some food and it took like a couple hours to show up. So, I mean, I wasn't even planning to be in that location that long anyway. So I'm not sure if that was just because of a routine backup or something else. But in general, the Medallion app is a really unique and nice feature to have if you're on a cruise. So Princess is the only one that does something like that, and it's really good. So for those of you looking for a more traditional cruising experience without all the bells and whistles, I think Princess does a really good job of that. Their food is a little bit above average, I would say, compared to some of the other cruise lines. They don't have a lot of specialty dining restaurants. They just have 2, which is the Steakhouse and an Italian restaurant typically. And of course they have some other dining options, pizza and burgers and that sort of thing, but they kind of keep it simple, and some people really like that. I kind of enjoy just the princess vibe. For me in general is just kind of a good one, I think, especially for solo travelers, and if you're not bringing a lot of kids, I think it's a good experience for that group. In terms of cons, like I mentioned, there's just not a lot of activities on Princess other than the typical game shows, enrichment, comedians, live music, that sort of thing. So if you're really looking for adventure on your cruise on the ship, then I would say Princess is probably not the best choice for you. Some of the ships are starting to look a little bit dated, in my opinion, maybe in need of a refresh, but I think Princess likes to keep it simple, like I mentioned, and all of the layouts of their ships are very similar, so you won't get lost going from one to another. But if you just kind of get tired of the earthy tones and the wood grain paneling everywhere, then you might find the ships a little boring. The cabins themselves are good quality. I'd say they're kind of middle of the road. They do have some of the most comfortable beds that I've been on. My parents actually really enjoyed their Princess bed. They almost ordered one. You can actually order the beds online. They thought the mattress was really comfortable. So that's something to consider. If you struggle with your cruise ship mattress, then Princess supposedly has pretty good ones, and I would definitely agree with that. The other con I would say is for what you get, I feel like Princess is a little bit pricier than some of the other cruise lines with similar itineraries. So again, you're paying a little bit more for slightly better food, but the ships are a little bit older, a little bit more dated. There's not as much of the new style things to do. So if that's something that might turn you off, then Princess probably wouldn't be your first choice. So to sum things up for Princess, I think they have some really great itineraries. Like they have some of the more unique and longer itineraries that I've seen out there. So if you're looking for a longer cruise or like a world cruise, then Princess is a really good choice for that. I think they're just a good solid cruise line. I think the medallion class functionality adds a lot to the experience. It allows you to kind of get some food and drinks wherever you are without having to get up and go to a bar and wait in line and that sort of thing. I think that's a really great feature, and being able to find your other crew members pretty easily is pretty cool, I have to say. Other than that, I feel like it's more geared towards adults, definitely. There's not going to be a lot for your kids to do other than going to the pools and the kids club. But that means that there's fewer kids, so maybe that's great for some families. But if I was a family wanting to take my kids on a cruise, they probably wouldn't be my first choice. So just keep that in mind. But otherwise, if you're looking for solitude, relaxation, enrichment, pools, hot tubs, and great itineraries, then give Princess a try. And finally, let's talk about Disney Cruise Line. So it's been about 25 years since I've been on a Disney cruise. I went once with my sister back just out of college, and it was just a 4-day cruise, but it was really memorable. A couple of things about it really stood out. I'm kind of a big Disney fan, so I enjoy all the music and I enjoy the movies. And now that they're a part of the Star Wars universe and everything, it's got some appeal to me. My kids, of course, like Disney stuff and Pixar, and so there's a lot of that history in my family. So we went on the Disney Fantasy. It was just myself and my 2 kids this past March, so just a few months ago. And unfortunately, I got some kind of non-COVID respiratory thing, and I was pretty laid out for most of the cruise. So I didn't do a lot of filming on this, so I apologize. In terms of pros of using Disney, obviously there's Disney everywhere. So if you love Disney, then you're going to have a great time. The entertainment on board is just out of this world. Again, especially if you love Disney, but even if you don't, the stage shows they had, so they had an Aladdin show, they had a Frozen show, they had this show called Dreams, I think it was called, where it was like a combination of all the different classic Disney characters in a story, and the genie from Aladdin was one of the main characters. These shows were just amazing. Like, even if you don't like Disney, I have a hard time believing you wouldn't enjoy these shows. The music was really good, the production value, they had pyrotechnics, all these things. So it was just really good experience in terms of entertainment, especially if you love Disney. The ship itself is, it was built back in the 90s, I believe, so it's getting a little bit outdated, I guess. probably done some renovation to it, I'm not really sure, but you know, it's a pretty standard cruise line experience with kind of a big atrium, and kind of reminded me a little bit of Princess with, of course, all the Disney touches everywhere. But they have this big water slide called the Aqueduct, and it's actually flat and it goes all the way around the deck, the main pool deck. And it was actually surprisingly fun. I was surprised because it looks really slow when you just see people going through it. The tube that it goes through is clear, so you can see people going through, but it was quite enjoyable. There was one other slide, I think. But in terms of bells and whistles, that's kind of it for Disney. You've got the pools, you've got the aqueduct, you've got one other slide, I believe. But there's none of this fancy new race cars or climbing walls or anything like that on the Disney ships. But they sort of make up for it for the kids with the kids clubs themselves. This one had a Star Wars themed kids club area for different age groups. And they also have a lot of different clubs and activities for different ages. So one of the things my kids complain about on other ships is that, you know, they're stuck in there with like 6-year-olds and stuff too, because the age ranges are just too wide for them. So on this one, they had a tween group that my kids just loved and spent pretty much all the time at. It was called Edge, I believe. So it was designed for kids from like 11 to 13. So those pre-teenage years are always tough, but they had a great time and met tons of great friends. My daughter didn't even want to come to dinner with us ever because she was so busy having fun with her friends, either in the Edge or just hanging out in other places on the pool. So if you've got kids, then Disney, you just can't go wrong with it, especially if you enjoy Disney. So in terms of dining on Disney, I felt like the food was a step above most of the other cruise lines that I've been on, maybe right up there with Celebrity actually. They had 3 different restaurants that you sort of rotated through depending on your itinerary. There was Animator's Palette, the Enchanted Garden, and the Royal Court. And they were all themed with different Disney themes, of course. The Animator's Palette was really amazing experience. All the walls and paintings would change and become colored, and it would animate, and they had little shows throughout the dinner. It was just a really cool experience. The food itself was really good too. The ambiance is really what makes it special, but the food was really good too. I think they do a good job on Disney with the rooms of having families and larger families in mind. So they have these family verandas and family other staterooms that can sleep up to 5, and you won't really find that without going to these massive suites on other cruise lines. So if you've got a family of 5, then even though those Disney prices are a little bit up there for sure, you can get them all in one room and comfortably too. So that's kind of a nice thing about their rooms. Other than that, they're pretty standard staterooms. They do have some nice features that have families in mind. Like they have a curtain that separates off like the areas where the kids sleep and the adults sleep. So if you've got little ones that go to bed a little bit earlier, then you can close the curtain and keep things quiet and dark in there for them while you still do what you need to do in the other part of the room. Disney's private island is called Castaway Cay, and it's one of the better private islands that on the different cruise lines, I believe. It's not quite as good, I don't think, as Coco Cay for Royal Caribbean, but I think it's right up there. There's tons of stuff, of course, for adults and kids to do. There's pools and cabanas and lots of activities. There's a big water castle and lots of things for people to do, and of course all the dining and bars and everything. So it's definitely a great place to go if you're on the Disney cruise ship. And that's the only way you can do it. They also have these themed cruises that they do on Disney for holidays like Christmas or Halloween. And they have themes like Pixar Day at Sea or Marvel Day or Pirate Day or Pixar or Star Wars. You know, they have all these different themed cruises you can do to really sort of narrow down what you most like about the Disney universe and what you want to see on your cruise ship. In terms of cons with Disney, you've got to talk about the price. So obviously the pricing of these are higher than other cruise lines. They rarely offer discounts. I was able to get a little bit of a discount on our cruise through a Disney Plus promotion that they had, but still it was quite pricey to go on this cruise. So if cost is your main factor in determining where you want to do the cruise, then Disney's probably not going to be at the top of your list. And these ships just don't have the bells and whistles that some of the newer ships have. You're not going to find laser tag or climbing walls or surfing simulators or anything like that on the Disney ships. They do have a kids club, and it's a really good one. And they have the aqueduct and pools and some splash pad areas for younger kids. But that's about it. So if you're looking for just tons of activities on the ship, aside from the programming that comes with the kids club, then you might be a little bit disappointed. But in general, I don't think any kids are going to be having a bad time on a Disney ship. So who is the Disney Cruise Line for? Well, obviously it's for families, especially families with kids and people that enjoy Disney. So if you don't enjoy Disney, if the music and all that stuff gets on your nerves, then you're going to want to stay clear of the Disney ships. There's constantly Disney music playing. There's characters around all the time greeting the kids. And you're just completely immersed in the Disney experience when you're on a Disney ship, as those who like that sort of thing would expect. So if that's not your cup of tea, I would stay away. But if you enjoy Disney at least marginally and your kids love it, then you're going to have an absolutely wonderful time on a Disney cruise ship. So with all this talk out of the way, let's get to my final ratings of the different cruise lines and which ones I think are best for different situations. So for the ships themselves, in terms of luxury, ambiance, indoor and outdoor spaces, I would say that I would rate them as follows. Number 1 would be Celebrity. Number 2 would be Norwegian. Number 3 would be Disney. Number 4 would be Royal Caribbean, and number 5 would be Princess. In terms of activities and the sheer amount of stuff to do on the ship, I would rate them Royal Caribbean number 1, Norwegian number 2, Disney number 3, Princess number 4, and Celebrity number 5. In terms of food quality and the complimentary options, I would rate them in this way. First would be Celebrity, followed by Disney, then Norwegian, Princess, then Royal Caribbean. In terms of specialty restaurants, I would rate them Norwegian number 1, Royal Caribbean number 2, Princess, Celebrity, and Disney I'm not going to rate just because I did not do any of the specialty dining on their ship. For entertainment, I would rate Disney number 1, Norwegian number 2, Royal Caribbean number 3, Princess number 4, and Celebrity number 5. For kids and family enjoyment, I would rate them Disney number 1, Royal Caribbean number 2, Norwegian number 3, Princess number 4, and Celebrity number 5. For intangibles, things like service and people going above and beyond and small touches to make your cruise even better, I would rate them as follows. Disney number 1, Norwegian number 2, Celebrity number 3, Royal Caribbean number 4, and Princess number 5. For value, I would rate the cruise lines like this. Royal Caribbean number 1, Norwegian number 2, Princess number 3, Celebrity number 4, and Disney number 5. And now I'm just going to choose what I think are the best cruise lines for these different situations. First, for families, I would say that if you enjoy the whole Disney experience, then Disney by far is the best cruise line of choice for families. If you're not really that into Disney and your kids aren't really either, and you just want adventure and a lot of things to do, then go with Royal Caribbean. If you value luxury and upscale accommodations on your cruise line, then you want Celebrity. If you want quiet, relaxation, and enrichment, then choose either Princess or Celebrity. If you're going on a cruise solo and you want a good mix of everything, go with Norwegian. If you're a party animal and you enjoy a good drink and going to all of those different parties and that sort of thing, then go with Royal Caribbean. If entertainment is your cup of tea and you want good Broadway quality entertainment, then I would go with Disney if you enjoy Disney, or Norwegian if you could take it or leave it. If you're looking for a good value, I would go with either Royal Caribbean or Norwegian. If your main interest on the cruise is food quality and variety, I would go with Norwegian or Celebrity. And finally, the winner of the Cruise Line Battle Royale, in my opinion, is Norwegian Cruise Line. And I chose Norwegian because I think they offer a great value. They have a good mix of activities for people of all ages. They've got tons of dining options. All of their cruise ships are unique in some way. They've got different cruise ships for different itineraries and different types of people. So no matter where you want to go or what you value most in your cruise vacation, you're going to find a Norwegian ship and itinerary that works for you without breaking the bank. Whew, so if you've stayed here for this whole video, I really appreciate it. I hope it's been helpful to you. Please remember again that it's just my opinion. I'm not out to offend anybody, and I hope you found the information helpful. If you did, I'd really appreciate a like and a subscription. And if not, let me know in the comments. What's your favorite cruise line? What's your favorite ship? What do you value most on your cruise vacations? So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.